In this video, we're going to be taking a look through my current Homelab rack setup, an additional taller rack I'm calling the Retro Rack that I'm racking up with early to mid 2000s enterprise gear, and some of the stuff I've got floating around in my workshop. It's the beginning of the year, so I figured what better way to kick things off than to take a look at some servers, basically some sneak peeks for some future videos you can expect, along with all the other stuff I've got going on down here in the workshop, including this Linksys stack. I'll go over that. We'll also get a little hands-on in the video with some Homelab repair work. Some idiot slammed that poor Dell R720 into the rack with its lid off, and in the process broke its lid open sensor, so its fans are ripped up 24/7, way louder than they need to be because the poor thing thinks the lid is off. I actually have the replacement riser board with lid sensor, so we'll throw that in there. I've been putting this repair off for way too long, and I figure let's start the new year off right. So this will be a pretty laid-back workshop Homelab tour video. I'll show you some of my collection down here and what I've been working on, how I'm using the space, and what you can expect from upcoming videos. Let's get into it. Let's jump right in, taking a look at the main Homelab rack here. But first, this guy here is a Dell R720, and it's running its fans a lot more often than it needs to, sitting around like 70-ish dBs at idle there. So I'm going to power this off, and we're going to put that new riser in with the button I was showing you, and I just noticed this. Look at that. That is drywall dust. I have a remodel project that I just started to wrap up way in another area of the basement. Usually these are just like perfectly clean. That's going to be interesting to see what's going on inside here. Yeah, this is just cut. This has been sucking in tons of drywall dust. That's too bad. I just powered that Dell down, and now about 48 dB, if you could see that. So a pretty significant noise drop just with that one server off. The one down here, the 510 that we'll get into, this one's on. It's got tons of hard drives in there. It's ripping away, makes barely any noise. With that off, let's walk through the rack. This is just a brush guard. It's really nice for these DAC, direct attach cables. So these aren't the normal RJ45 style cable you'd be used to. And so you don't really have nice patch panels for these SFP plus cables. So I just use brush panels. Plus it lets you kind of jam anything else in there. It's kind of a nice cop out if you also don't really know what you're up to with your rack yet. And then we've got this UDM Pro. I've been happy with this unit. This is my home network, by the way. I call it a Homelab, but the Homelab stuff's kind of at the bottom with the servers and everything. I bought all this stuff over 4 years ago. I got pretty excited around the same time everyone else was getting excited about unified gear. And I gotta say, for the most part, other than some things I'll bring up, been pretty solid. So this is a UDM Pro, been on 24/7 for over 4 years. This, I think, is a USW 48 port PoE Pro. So this is a massive 48 port switch. This is probably the nicest piece of unified gear I have. I'm really happy with this. You can see I'm keeping about half of it busy, if you can see the lights in there. So plenty of room down here for expansion. And you'll notice I have the brush panel, an appliance, a patch panel, appliance, patch panel, appliance, and so on. This is really important when you're making changes. So I can pull this thing out without having to like unclip a bunch of cables. I can pull the 48 port switch out only by unhooking what's connected to it. I don't have to worry about cables draping over, one or more appliances. And that's just a really clean way if you can do every other. Highly recommend it. Down a little lower, this is a USW aggregation switch. I think it's an 8-port switch, 10G. So this does 10 gigabit networking. I'll talk a little bit about what's connected there. I mainly use this between my workstation in the other room that you'll see and these two servers. These have 10 gig NICs inside them. It's been fine, I suppose. This is sort of the 10G backbone. I don't know if backbone's the right word. It's kind of the backbone of the network. All of these appliances are connected up to it by 10 gig where they have it. So there's a 10 gig uplink to this one, and this one. This is a 1G switch. So all these ports are 1 gig, but it's got 4 10 gig ports over here. And so everything's sort of aggregated through this 10 gig switch here. Again, all these cables here are what are called direct attach copper, DAC cables. This is a very affordable way to get 10G connectivity over short distances. And again, I'm just using the wire brush guard thing here so I can slam as many cables through as I need to. Over here, we've got the OG UNVR. 2 of its hard drives have been failing for over a year. So that might be a project in the future. I'm just winging it on that one. At its peak, I think I had 10 cameras hooked up to this. There's about 5 active now. I have one complaint with this machine. I had it for about a year, and the geniuses at Unify had the OS internally installed on a USB stick. A total piece of crap, obviously cheap, piece of junk USB stick in here, and of course it went bad, which was ridiculous. And so I found an online tutorial, ripped out that stick, put a new one in, had to kind of factory reset it like 5 times, and I did bring it back to life. It had just gone out of RMA or warranty, and they had also sort of extended the warranty, but I was like, ah, screw it, I like dicking around. So I tried it myself, and it's been chugging along ever since. A little further down, we've got the Dell PowerEdge R720. I'll show you the specs on this when we look on the computer and see what it's running. This runs Proxmox. This is purely just a hypervisor running VMs that are in turn running containers usually for me. A lot of these, and it's not on now, so a lot of these drive trays are just empty. Looks like this is an SSD. That might be the actual root disk. I can't quite remember the setup. I think I've got 2 of these 500 gig disks. One is internal, and I think it is the OS, so Proxmox, and then this is just some additional storage. I have a lot of expansion I could do here, and probably will. I was kind of thinking about blowing it out with all SSDs, since you could just rip those into a bunch of cheap ones. I can't actually remember the setup. We're going to learn together. There's another SSD, and another. Okay, so clearly I have more. This is all kind of coming back to me. I think the internal one is a 5 or 250 gig SSD running the OS, and then I've got a few here that are in a RAID 0, as I recall, and that is rated by the card inside. It's not a software RAID like this guy that we'll talk about. This is my pride and joy. This is my PowerEdge R510. All of these are full. I'll have to go look and see what size the disks are. I think it's mostly 6 terabyte drives in one 20 terabyte pool with a 2 hard drive redundancy, one of which is failing. We'll talk about that later. And then I've got 4 old SAS drives. I think they're 2 gigs or something for an effective storage of 4 gigs or something like that. And of course, I set this all up over 4 years ago as an experiment. I lived in an apartment at the time, and these were sitting on the floor because I knew my wife and I were going to move into this house. I was going to have all this extra room. I set it up there thinking, oh yeah, I'll get redundancy on the OS drives here and here. I'll redo the pool. Nope, none of that ever happened. It has been on for over 4 years, just the way I set it up back then. And so I need to bite off getting another NAS. ZFS is not a backup, and I kind of need to reconfigure this and kind of revamp it. I still like these servers. I'll show you the power draw. It's not great. It's not beautiful, but they do everything I need them to do. Well, let's fix this one real quick. If you're gonna get into the racked up server game, spring for the rails. It's so worth it. Sometimes it's the price of the machine, but like being able to pull it out and work on it by yourself is priceless. We'll get this lid off real quick, and hopefully I won't slam it back in the rack with the lid off this time. So what are we looking for here? I think this is it. Riser 2 right here. I'll hopefully better look at that riser card. I don't really know how it comes out. So you can see right here, there's a little hole where a button used to be. And on my replacement unit here, it still has the little switch. That's how it knows if the lid is shut, and it'll let it naturally spin the fans down. Now, there are other ways to force it to spin the fans down, but as I recall, it's been almost a year, I think, since I did this, since I broke this thing. This thing really wasn't that loud before, so I want to see if I can just leave it factory and not mess around with the fan settings, because I'm obviously not in this room very often, but this thing is so loud right now you can hear it upstairs sometimes. This also was sent in by a viewer named Sebastian, so thank you very much. I'm finally using it. I think I got this like 10 months ago. Let's see here. Should I unplug the power? Probably. I'm gonna do that. Okay, machine has no power now. It's probably a good idea. All right, what's going on with this riser? It just pulls out, no clips or anything. So there's the old one. Here's the new one. Button. I haven't gotten to sit here and actually do some, maintenance or work on these servers in a very long time, almost nearly since I set them up. It's actually one of my favorite aspects of home labbing because you kind of get to pretend you're like a data center engineer or something. Okay, we are in. Old one is out. Does anyone want a broken 720 riser board? You could probably glue something in there or something, I don't know. I'll get this plugged back in while I can reach it. There's a better look at the inside there. If you can eat the power bill, I really like these servers. They've been really good to me. These are maybe I'm biased, they're the first ones I ever bought. First enterprise gear I ever bought. So I really like them, but they're just like super easy to work on. This one's blown out with like 192 gigs of DDR3 RAM, which is plenty for what I do. It's not even warm anymore. Like they're just such good units. I almost did it. I almost slid it back in without this case on there. You kind of lay the case on and this slides it forward and latches it. Let's do this properly this time. Here's what we call a pro move. Every time I put this thing back in, I accidentally rip the network cable out of my UNVR hosting all the cameras. I guess it's a good opportunity. This is what one of those DAC cables looks like. SFP plus port, they're called. And it plugs in. I can never remember which direction. That's the right direction. Before I turn that thing on, let's look at the rest of the rack. I've got this PDU. It's got plugs on the back that are actually being leveraged for the rest of the rack. Got my camera that I'm filming on right now plugged in. This is really handy for just messing around and experimenting in here. This is a trip light UPS. Only, look at that dust. Man, that's too bad. Only the servers are plugged into it at the moment because that's all it can kind of keep up. I'll put the model number. It's been a good unit. It's actually saved these servers from many, many power blips and power outages. It can run both of these servers at full tilt for about 20 minutes, which is pretty nice. And you can get pretty sophisticated and teach the servers to shut off. This thing has like a serial connection and they can talk to each other. I did a video about that, man, just 2 years ago or something, but I need to revamp that. If that's something you'd want to know about, I'm kind of willing to bite the bullet on a bigger unit here, I think. I'd like to power the whole network while the power's out for as long as I can. Down here, I've got this 3U rack mountable 3 camera deal, 3 screens. It's just composite because I've got these RF modulators. So these take composite in my case from some Raspberry Pis, turn it into RF so I can tune to it in a TV in the other room. And this thing is a really weird deal. A computer to video scan converter. It can take a VGA in and convert it to composite. I just think it looks cool in the rack. I've used it for a couple things. None of this stuff is configured at the moment. I needed to poach some cables and I needed to steal some Raspberry Pis, and I want to move it over to this bad boy. This monster is what I'm calling the retro rack. It is partially configured. I've got the beginnings of a network and power distribution right there. You can see I'm starting to get my Sun stuff rolling. That one is fully racked up with real Sun rails. I just recently received a rail kit for this V440, so you will be seeing a video basically dedicated to that machine. We'll dive into it. It's really fascinating. It's got these modular CPUs. I've actually got 2 of them, 1 parts unit, and this one is fully functional. We'll get like Solaris 8 installed on there. And then down here, more pride and joy, some IBM P-Series gear. That really thin 1U server right there is a E server something or other from 2004 or something. It's acting as what's called an HMC, a hardware management console, and you can remotely manage these monsters. That's a System P5520, and that's a System P5550Q. That requires 240 volts, or more like 220 or something, I guess. Anyway, that's not a common voltage here in the US, but our power system, our panels, you got a little sub panel right here, is more than capable of providing it. So I installed this 220 volt service here. Obviously, that was before I got that other rack. So another aspect of this year is going to be power distribution down here in general. That 220 volt needs to be way longer and taken to the other room. I'll probably daisy chain off it and just put another outlet in so I can leave one here. This is a single 15 amp outlet, and the whole rack with this black cable is plugged in. And I like to experiment and throw stuff on top of this rack. You can see I've got some gear floating around up there. And if I plug something in that has like a high current draw, usually a server, it'll flip the GFCI protection on that outlet, and the whole rack goes down, except for the servers because they're on UPS, but the network goes out. My wife's unhappy, I'm unhappy, I'm embarrassed. So basically, the name of the game is going to be a lot more 220 volt, A lot of this stuff can run on 220 volt if you get safe cables, and it'll actually draw less current. It's kind of a good setup. And then I'm going to revamp this 15 amp outlet, change that over to a 20 amp circuit so that I can draw more power. And I can do all that really conveniently because I've got this sub panel right here. This is incredibly convenient. And there's plenty of room for upgrades. There's my 220 that got put in. So you can look forward to some power distribution work because I can't really go much further with this thing if I wanted to get a lot of it on or add more. And I actually have to take an extension cord. There's no outlets on this side of the room. So I've got some work to do there. And now I think what we'll do is we'll head into the other room, the workshop where I film, and you see me talking to the camera and where my computer is. We'll start looking at my gear that I've gotten there, what I've been collecting, talk about plans I've got, and I think you'll start to get an appreciation for the retro rack and what's going to start happening and filling in these blank spots throughout the course of the year. I almost forgot. We got to power up this bad boy, see if our fix worked. Now, if you buy one of these enterprise servers, especially newer ones, I think these are like 10 years old, but newer ones, you're going to be incredibly alarmed because when you first plug them in, they rip the fans to 100 because they don't know what state they're in. So they're trying to be safe. And then they start looking at their temperature readings and if the case is open, and then they'll rev down. So this thing will start off like a jet engine. We'll see how we do. Sitting at 70 dB. I'm not too surprised by that. 50, except when I'm talking. That little spikes my voice. We'll call it low 50s. That is easily 20 dB quieter because now it knows the lid is shut and it's not panicking thinking that it's not getting good airflow. I should have done that a long time ago. It is so quiet in here now. Give you a little side view real quick. So it's pretty important for these enterprise machines to flow air usually from front to back. So you notice the CPUs I showed you earlier, it's not like they have a spinning fan on them. These things suck in air and cool passively, so to speak, all the components inside and blow hot air out the back. In fact, in data centers, usually you have a cold side and a hot side, and then they cool the hot air back down and bring it all around again. And so that's why this thing panics when the lid's off, because it thinks all that air is just escaping and not passing over the components. It's especially important when you have like a bunch of hard drives, those need air passing through them, or you have like beefy network cards or video cards in the PCI slots on the back that need air passing through them. So yeah, that's what's going on there. I guess I'll show you the view I have. This is what I see when I'm filming intros and outros and talking to the camera, basically. You can see over here is the bench, of course, to my right. And then down here, we've got a whole pile of stuff. We'll look at that first. And then we'll move on to the interesting part, where I store the majority of my collection. Let's start right here. I've got this little Think Center, 1 liter mini PC, whatever they call them. These are awesome. So this is what I would call like my workshop Linux machine. It's got Windows too, but I almost exclusively use this one for Linux. And I've got this sort of bench monitor that I mounted on a swivel mount there to this workbench, which has worked out really nice. I kind of had grander dreams for this setup, but sometimes this guy gets thrown to the side and this keyboard kind of comes and goes as I'm using different things. But all in all, this has been a great machine and I'm really glad I have it. It comes in really handy and it's nice to be able to plug arbitrary stuff into this monitor. And then there's this beautiful thing. This is a Sony Trinitron WEGA KD30XS955 30-inch 1080i CRT TV. No, I did not memorize that. I was reading it off the screen over there. This thing is an absolute unit. It's well over 100 pounds. I suspect it's got a flat screen CRT. Now, it's newer, so you can't play like Duck Hunt and light games with it, which was a huge bummer. But the killer feature of this thing is that it has HDMI in. Yes, that's right. A CRT TV with an HDMI port on the back. I'll try to show a picture of that. So basically, if you're playing like original Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube, anything like that, this is just a fantastic experience. And I am the second owner. I got this for free. I saw it on Craigslist. It's about an hour away, hour north of me. Called my buddy and was like, hey, we got to go pick this thing up. I need this thing. And we went up there and yeah, the guy was super nice. He was the original owner. He had finally stopped using it. He upgraded to a flat screen TV a couple years ago. I think I got this 3-ish years ago. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I need to move it. So if I zoom you out a little bit here, you can see just the edge of the other bench. I got this before I was kind of doing YouTube, and this whole space here could be a lot of extra storage or more YouTube projects that are active. So I'd really like to have this bench, another bench like this, extend this way and maybe even an L shape and get rid of this whole setup entirely. I'm gonna keep this thing, but I just don't use it enough to justify having it taking up all this space right here. I need to find a better spot for it because I'm definitely not getting rid of it. I mean, it was free, it's fantastic. Be hard to get rid of it anyway, it's so heavy. But yeah, I love this thing. It's a fantastic monitor. Moving down here, I built this sort of shelf thing under the workbench. It's all screwed in and one unit. I had a bunch of video game systems on here because I was using them for the TV, but like I was saying, I just don't really use that setup like this anymore, so this turned into storage, and this is a really nice preview, hopefully, of some stuff you're going to see on the channel. This is my iOmega stuff. I used to have a really cool iOmega collection. I had all sorts of interesting stuff. I'll try to find some pictures of it. Just wanted to show a couple more pictures here. I had a pretty impressive pile of stuff, and during an apartment move many years ago, 5+ years ago, I just didn't have the space, so I donated it and moved it on to the next person. But yeah, I'd like to build this back up again. But yeah, this is all that's left now. I've got tons of Zip 100s. I got these at VCF Midwest actually for like $5 each. These Zip 100 drives, I don't know if they work. They're just parallel units. I've got a Jazz drive here. If you haven't seen Jazz stuff, it's pretty cool. I think lots of folks are familiar with the Zip disks, of course, the Zip 100s. Well, Jazz was 1 gig and 2 gig, I think. This is an internal Jazz drive with the tape in there. That's not a tape, but the disc. So yeah, I'm really excited to sort of gather more of this stuff up. I know it's been covered ad nauseum on YouTube, but I don't think iOmega and their line in the late 90s, actually early 90s to early 2000s, I don't think that stuff can be covered enough. It's just such a fascinating piece of history. Their designers were just out of control with all their ideas. They clearly had like free reign. I'm just so fascinated by it because I grew up using this Zip 100 stuff quite a bit. And yeah, I don't know, I really like this stuff. So getting more of that. Got a couple Cisco routers over there, a 1600 and a 1700. These are some Nomadix hotspot gateways. I think you would actually like install this in like a hotel, and you can set this up with like a payment gateway so that you log into the Wi-Fi and pay. I haven't powered these up yet, but I really hope they're provisioned. It's my understanding they needed to phone home at least once to like set themselves up, so I'm hoping I can even use them. But that would be really interesting to get that set up. Got some Cisco ASA 5505s. These have PoE, so that could be fun to play with. I've got some PoE phones on the way, and maybe I can use those with these. Got an IBM PS2 down there. I can't remember the model. It's kind of one of the pizza box looking ones. I thought I was clever one night on eBay after a couple beers, you know what I mean? I thought it was a PCI model, but it's a microchannel, their proprietary bus. So of course I'll never find a hard drive for it, but I think, and I'll show you gear about this later, I think I can just boot it over the network. That could be interesting. Hiding in here, new in box Linksys power over Ethernet injectors. Incorporate those into a video someday. Got a little AdTran hiding down here, and yeah, I'll show you this Nextel. We won't open up everything in this video, and I probably won't even show you everything because gotta keep some secrets, for future videos. But you probably want to see this. Look at this. So I'm gonna need to whip out the VHS. How to use your Nextel phone VHS tape. That's probably really good. And there it is. I'm sure some folks remember this. My dad was super big on Nextel. I want to know, like, what can I do with these? The network has been turned off for a very, very long time. Look at this beauty. I wonder, it might have a little bit of battery. Nah, it's dead. But wait, there's more. Got carried away on eBay one night, as usual. Remember these bad boys? This was like hot stuff back then. This Nextel. So good with the antenna, of course. My question is there something I can actually like do with these? Like something cool? Even if questionable, FCC's they're not coming down here. Like, can we do like a hyper local network somehow? I don't know. What kind of gear would I need? Let me know. Down there, of course, we've got the massive IBM RS6000 unit. It's an F40. It's over 100 pounds, and that's why it's there. I don't have anywhere else to put it. There will be follow-up videos on this. I never actually like installed any operating system or on it or anything like that. So we'll definitely be doing like a whole hard drive overview video and getting something going there. In the yellow bin, I've got some CSU, DSU stuff for T1 stuff. Just did a video about that. Storing it in there for now until I'm ready for it. A couple random motherboards floating over there. We got some cables in this box down here. A Mac, and then a Power Mac G5. You can tell because there's the PowerPC CPU sitting right there. That stuff will all be in a video someday, so let me know if you'd want to see more on that. Moving on to the first portion of the enterprise networking collection. I'm not the first guy that thought of putting these things sideways on the shelf like this, but let me tell you, when I did, that was a game changer. This is the only way to store this stuff. I was stacking it, and then if you wanted something on the bottom, you had to pull it. And now I can just pull anything I want. For example, we got this switch right here. This is a fiber channel switch. Not quite a networking switch. For some hard drive videos on that P-series gear, those black machines in the retro rack I was showing you. So that's a nice sneak peek. At the bottom, we've got my favorite Cisco networking gear, the 7200 series VXR and just the regular 7200 series. I love these things. They've got these things called port adapters, which let you configure them for all sorts of different networks, token ring, Ethernet, you can do T1 cards, you name it. You can do it with these things, at least if you're concerned with circa 2000. I love these units. They just are maxed with port adapter cards to store the cards. These aren't configured in any meaningful way. I kind of configure them as I pull them off the shelf and need them. Got the Intel gear over here. Bunch of 3Com gear hiding over here. I haven't dove into the 3Com world yet, but I am slowly accumulating stuff to make some videos with. And over here, all the ATM fans will notice a couple 4 systems units. That'll be exciting. What I really want to do is actually eliminate all this and have another row that I can put sideways in, because it's such a good way to store this. Like I said, I don't think I'm the first one to think of it. If you look in the background of YouTubers that collect stuff like this, you'll see they're all doing it. But yeah, it's definitely the way to go. These are just random, screws and parts. These are like little serial adapters. I've got all my soldering gear and stuff in here. Little screwdrivers, fiberglass pen for getting corrosion off of traces, random wiring, so, that sort of thing. Up top, a bunch of complete inbox stuff that I'm either not going to get to for a while or I'm not going to touch in a long time. Got a Sunray 150, did a video about that. Sunfire will be 100, another video. Way up there, we've got a D-Slam. So that will actually let me set up a full DSL network, the same way I've been doing dial-up and everything. But I need to get some DSL modems. I think I have everything I need. That's the big hard part to get right there, the D-Slam. A lot of this stuff was sent to me either for free or for shipping or for a really good deal. Well, I bought these on eBay, but I want to shout out 2FX sent me that D-Slam for shipping, which is just a screaming deal, so thank you to them. And the retro computing enthusiasts might have noticed, I've got the Nabus, of course. These are super interesting computers out of Ottawa from the 80s, and you could actually like dynamically get software to them over the cable television network via this thing, this adapter unit. Kind of acted like a modem, I guess you could say. And I think it was 2-3 years ago, I remember sitting on my couch watching Adrian's Digital Basement video about it, and I immediately got on eBay and I immediately bought both units. I was like, man, they're gonna figure out how to get these online. This is gonna be big. And sure enough, it was. Turns out I didn't need to buy this adapter. I've never even opened this actually, but I have unboxed the Nabu computer itself. It's in perfect condition, works great. I took it online. Pretty cool. And then if I stand where the camera usually is, the shelf we were just looking at is right over there. This is my main workstation. So this is my main machine. This is where I do all my video editing. This is where, well, if I need to use a computer, this is the computer I use. And you can see the Linksys stack right there. And then above me, I've got all sorts of like software and boxes. We'll briefly look at that, but I'll tell you about the Linksys stack. I really have fond memories of the WRT54G. I did a whole video about it, how you could turn it into a bridge or a repeater, back when something like that was like really inaccessible to the prosumer at home. And I thought they were just rock solid units, all the Linksys gear really. But it seems like 20% of people really hated them, really think they were total trash, and then 80% of people are like me with fond memories and nothing but good things to say. Long story short, I bought like one or two of them because I wanted to do like a repeater video, and then I bought a wireless B one because I used to have one of those as well, and I just kind of wanted it for the collection to play around with. And I blasted out a bunch of offers on eBay one night for all this stuff, expecting, you know, one or none to be accepted. And basically they were all accepted. So I ended up with like 5 or 6 of them or something. And so I stacked like 4 of them or something. And at the end of every video, it must have been about a year ago, maybe longer, I started just adding one at the end of each video to see if anyone would ever notice. And it kind of turned into what you see today, where I would go buy cheap ones on eBay and keep adding and adding and adding. And I still do occasionally put one in, but I've slowed down. It's kind of diminishing returns here. And then above that, you don't get to see this very often, might be my favorite part of the workshop. I mounted an IBM X3650 to the wall. I have a series of 3 videos where I took this thing from absolutely terribly grimy, stripped it down to all its bare parts, tried to get it working, ultimately had to buy a new main board for it, and in the interim I had screwed it into the wall sort of as art, which it is. I think it looks really good. And ultimately I got it working. So it runs, like whenever I need to run this thing, and I want to do a follow-up video, it's an ADP unit, and it has the ADP software on there, and I want to image the hard drives. I'm going to do a follow-up video on this, hopefully this year. And when I run this machine, I run it on the wall. I just plug it in and I leave it there and I power it up. It's actually really fun to use. And then to the right of that, I've got a shelf with software, mostly software and books like Windows, Windows 95 programming, Windows 3.1 programming, the Solaris 9 Sun Certified System Administrator, you know, normal stuff that people collect. Got all the boxes that the Linksys stuff came in. Some of them are still shrink wrapped. That's a shrink wrapped, what is this? Wireless access point router, BFW11S4, so the stack might grow. But yeah, I think I want to put another shelf above this. This has become a holding ground for stuff that doesn't necessarily go up here. A lot of this stuff I'm not touching all the time. You know, occasionally I pull a book down or whatever, but it's mostly just purely for collecting sake. This software, I've got like a wrapped copy of Word, I've got a wrapped copy of Windows for Workgroups, which is pretty sweet. So I'll be exploring this stuff over time. But yeah, I'll get another shelf up here, I think, and that would really make a difference. If we look to our right, from where I was just pointing you, we've got sort of the last few main storage areas. These shelves continue, as you can see here. We'll take a quick look at what's on there. Moving a little further in, you see I've got a pile of stuff in the annex over here, so I obviously need to get tons of shelves. One of my projects this year, and I'll do a whole video on it, is basically I'm going to shelve all this up and reorganize this. I've got a lot of organization problems. And then one last pile of shelves to the left over there. Let's start with this bottom section. So just more storage, sideways network gear storage, aside from a couple sneaky little Sun items. This is the first Sunfire I ever bought. It's a Sunfire V120, and it's hiding in there because it's nice and small. This is a Sun storage. That's a disk array, 3-disk array that goes along with that guy, basically. Of note, I guess, is this thing. I'm starting to acquire 4 systems gear, and so that, to those that are familiar, will be ATM. ATM was I'll call it a competing network standard with Ethernet, what we know and love today, and I am slowly acquiring ATM gear. I have not necessarily acquired the knowledge to use it, but we're getting there. Then we got some Nortel switches and Cisco gear. Down here we got a MacBook Air. I don't know if it's retro. I think my wife and I bought this new. This is a cache that I did a video on. This is a massive Cisco router that is capable of broadband. So I can actually do cable modems and stuff with this guy. It's all configured. This needs to go in the retro rack. I'd like to have that be a full-time setup. This is a big old disk shelf for those black IBM P5 machines you saw. This is fiber channel, which is why I hinted at that fiber channel gear over there. And this is a spare parts V440, that big purple Sunfire you saw in the retro rack. And calling it a parts unit probably isn't fair. It just needs CPUs and RAM. So I think I'm gonna hunt that down. It'd be kind of cool to have 2 of these, do some sort of grid computing, explore that. Over here, this is my main Windows XP machine. I restored this in a video. The front plate's fallen off. That's a Pentium 4 machine. That's been nothing but great to me. I pull this off the shelf and use it all the time. And this is really interesting. This is like a satellite modem. So all I need is another one and a satellite, and yeah, we'll be cooking with this bad boy. Further up, we've just got like stuff. So here's a little case of GBICs and AUI MAU adapters and screws from projects I've long since forgotten. Here's those Nextel phones I was showing you. So this is the main problem with this setup. All this stuff that I rarely need goes back here, and then this just turns into a mess. We got Raspberry Pis, other stuff. It's too much. However, here's my cable. Speaking of cable modems, I think Viborg just sent this my way. That's a Motorola, like maybe the OG surfboard there. And then my favorite, the RCA DOCSIS 1 modem. Had this as a kid. He's a trooper. This is another one where I did a video on it, and like a lot of people hated it, but this one just worked. I'm not going to cover everything. If you see something that catches your fancy, leave a comment. Here we've got hard drives I've been accumulating. I think these are 16 terabyte drives. They're expensive. So I've got 4 of them, and I need like, I don't know, 8 more or something. I need to build another NAS, and that got all the more important today. Let me show you. We got a pretty serious problem. This is my TrueNAS instance. I've got 2 pools of disks. I've got this little 4 terabyte deal. Let's see here. That's in a RAID Z1. I think I can lose 1 disk. And then my main pool, where I keep every clip I've ever filmed, which I reference all the time in other videos, and I keep everything on this one. It's degraded. This happened about a month ago. I just noticed literally tonight, unfortunately. And yeah, one of the disks has faulted. It's having read errors. I don't know. It's unclear to me if this thing's actually running. Anyway, the good news is when I set this up, I did RAID Z2, which means I can lose 2 disks. But I tried to avoid this, but there's a very good chance that this disk was in the same lot as one of these others. So yeah, my first order of business is to use some of those drives you just saw. I'm going to put them in this machine here and format them, and I'm going to get all the stuff I really, really care about off of the NAS and onto those disks as like a first backup. And then I'll let you follow along as I decide how I'm going to build another NAS, where I'm going to put it, all that backup stuff. So yeah, we'll be getting a NAS video going. I think I'm going to pull 1 or 2 of these and put them in my main machine, format them, and actually just get a quick backup of some stuff. Maybe I'll make multiple backups, just leverage these drives briefly while I come up with a NAS solution. Moving up a shelf, this is another just like total catch-all shelf. It's at my eye level. I put just everything here. Here's one of my cameras I'm not using from the UNVR, a bunch of Gigastack cables from some Catalyst switches. What do we got here? Let's dig around a little bit. CD, DVD-ROM drives, blank discs. Got the stockpile of Noctua fans for doing those mods whenever I want. Got some Dell Ultrium 2 tapes. I'll show you why I bought those, new old stock. 200 gig tapes. A bunch of random parts, more drives. A Cisco Pix 506E with its lid taken off apparently, but I lost the screws. And then I always end up with a stockpile of static electricity bags, anti-static bags I should say, and I keep them, and then I reach critical mass because I never use them. I throw them all away, and the whole cycle starts over again. These are modern-ish NICs. I think these are to those Dell machines that aren't in use right now. I kind of keep cleaning stuff right here, paper towels. Usually it's just, the name of the game is Windex, to be honest. Cleans almost everything. And I have tools in the shelf just below, kind of like screwdrivers and stuff just sitting here. I got a little pick thing. It's kind of where I put that stuff. Up there we got my dad's TRS-80 Model 3. It needs a little bit more work. I need to clean up the drives. They only kind of work. I want to put a, what are those things called? One of these, a Gotek USB to floppy emulator. So you can pop this in here, maybe get a 3D printed plate or something, and I'll be able to just put floppy images on a USB stick, plug it into this thing. This thing will be none the wiser. I think that would be a nice little mod upgrade deal. Up in here, got some pretty interesting stuff. Got a Sun keyboard. Let me show you why I have that. Because it came with this. This is a Sun SparkStation IPX, one of the old Sun machines from the 90s with matching CD-ROM. This was generously donated by a viewer named Nathan. I have not powered it on. I've got some other parts for it from my buddy CDI he sent my way. Got the adapter to convert the weird whatever that is to VGA, and I got a blue SCSI to replace probably a dead hard drive if there even is a hard drive in there. yeah, you will definitely be seeing a video on this thing on the channel. I just want to do it properly. I need to probably get a NVRAM solution going. Anyway, I won't dive into it, but I want to cover this in a proper way and give it the respect it deserves and make sure I can get it fully functioning. And that's going to be a fun video. I want to show you just one more thing on top of this shelf because I see it poking out at me and I forgot that I had it. Hiding in this box is a PDP-11. This is a very visually faithful recreation of the front panel of a PDP-11, shrunk down, of course. And you can see we've got the front bezel slips in there. You can start to get the idea. And it came with really accurate recreations of the PDP-11 flip switches, which will go in here. And it's a do-it-yourself kit for a Raspberry Pi. So there are good emulators for the Raspberry Pi, or I should say, good emulators for the PDP-11 that you can run on a Raspberry Pi B plus right here. That's where that would screw in. And I bought this, man, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, probably right when it came out. I remember it was so expensive. I asked my wife, I was like, look, I'm going to spend a lot of money on this thing. Is that cool? And she's like, yeah, whatever. And I haven't built it yet, so I don't know that it would be a video. It's probably more of like a, for me type of thing. Sit down here and build it over the course of a few weeks. I think I have everything. I think the kit came with all the parts I need. I just got to build it. And then what would be fun though is get the Raspberry Pi on there and do something PDP-11-ish, with some of my other equipment. That could be cool. Over here is sort of just more storage space. This is a 3D printer, an Ender something, kind of the cheap one. I don't know what it is, but it does everything I need it to do. And it's not even mine, it's my buddy's. The same buddy that went and got that TV with me. He doesn't quite have the space, so he just ships me over whatever he wants printed and I print it out for him. And as you can see, I haven't used it in a while. Got some more port adapters hiding around for the 7200 series. You'll see that's a theme, port adapters everywhere. Got a Laserdisc player, that's excellent. I would like to get that in a permanent setup somewhere with that TV. It looks fantastic on that TV. Bunch of random crap. Got some bins with like video cables, audio cables. Oh, this is kind of cool. IBM token ring gear. I think these are all micro channel. Yeah, these are micro channel IBM token ring cards, and this one is probably a PCI token ring card from 3Com, shrink wrapped. Token ring is 2025. Is this the year of Club Retro token ring? I don't know. This big dog down here is an HP ProLiant Gen 3. It's ridiculously heavy. I've done a video on that. It's pretty interesting. I've got a bunch of these stupid friggin' card things that they hold the memory and they keep going bad. I should probably do a video and just kind of give an overview of what I'm seeing with these. I have like a ton of these things, like 8 or 9 of these things, and they'll work for a moment and then they'll go bad. And then occasionally one will come back to life. I think they're just wearing out. Something on these, some componentry here is wearing out. I don't know. This machine has really interesting like RAM configurations, and you can do this hot swappable stuff where you slide these in with the new RAM. It's pretty wild. This is a P6 with no lid, an IBM P6, the successor to those P5 black machines I was showing you. This is a Sunfire X2200, I think? Yes, it is. This is a x86 Sun machine, kind of interesting. And here is an HCL card. I need to acquire a lot more equipment for this. I have the cables. Basically, you can connect like peripherals, like PCI disk shelves to those, again, those black P5 machines. I have one of the cards. This is an IBM rack monitor, comes out, and I don't have the rest of the rail kit, so it's not very useful. Over here, we just got more random stuff. I could really utilize this space better. This is a very common thing in the shop down here. A little thing full of screws, because I thought, oh, I'm a genius. I'll put all the screws from whatever I'm taking apart in here. I have no idea what those go to. Here's another fine example, just a few feet away. I wonder if I'll ever know what those went to. And then over here, we got the IBM Token Ring Network Architecture reference. Is this the year, folks? Is it Token Ring this year? Back this direction, just tons of stuff. Some stuff I've bought, some stuff people have donated or shipped to me. That box is just like full of stuff. So is this one. You can see scuzzy cables poking out. Yeah, like I was saying, I'm gonna shelve all this up, get all this on display so I can actually do something with it. Got this little area here, and what you see is Cisco 7200 stuff. We've got some MPEs, those are the processor boards that slide in the back and actually do all the routing and the work, and then these are port adapters. I got a lot of this stuff. There's another one right there. Let's look at these shelves, and we'll start at the top just for fun. These were like some pretty industrial shelves that would go in the back of like a work van, and a buddy of mine gave me a good deal on them, and I screwed them to the wall. So here they are. Got a tape drive up there, IBM tape drive. That's a Sunray, another Sunray. Got what I would call 1.5 working Commodore 64s. I was really into Commodore 64 for a while. I mean, I still am. I don't think I'll ever truly cover it on the channel. I think it's very well covered by people that are way more interested in it and grew up with it and know how to repair them. But I do like tinkering with them, and I've got I've got 2 in box. One works. The other one needs, I think, just a little bit of work. It needs a new PLA chip. I have the replacement PLA chip, aftermarket, third-party one, modern replacement, and I just, I need to just come down here and sit down here and fix one of those. Here's some C64 software I got at VCF Midwest? No, VCF East. PowerC, FilePro, Spreadsheet, all the classics. Not much of note on this shelf. Another Sunray and a dismantled Sunray that's broken. This shelf's a little more interesting. I need a better setup here too. This is all my hard drive stuff. So these are all SCSI, and then that's a bunch of SAS drives, old SAS, well, I would say modern by my channel standards, but SAS drives, a lot of those Dell servers will just come smashed out with old SAS drives that you can't really use. So yeah, this is the hard drive shelf. We got some adapters and more modern stuff aside from these 2 Pentium 3s. They're sitting here. Down one shelf, we've got RAM. Oh, and more hard drive stuff. I'm so organized. I was going to clean all this up for the video, and then I thought I kind of got partway through and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to show it to them how it is. This is a bunch of RAM, mostly DDR2, almost exclusively DDR2. This is a box full of PC MCIA cards. Let's take a look. Let's get a taste. 3 at random. A 3COM 56K PC card. A megahertz PC MCI modem, 28.8, and a megahertz 56K from US Robotics. I think you get the idea. There's some interesting stuff in there. I've got a couple laptops I'm gonna get into fighting shape, and we will see videos on that stuff for sure. Another shelf down, and this is mostly PCI cards. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Here's more Cisco equipment, router stuff. Some HBA cards. SAS HBA card, probably from some IBM. We got video cards, we got Sun network cards, all sorts of stuff in here, and obviously this is not the best way to organize it. When I'm gonna stack stuff, mostly I do try to put them in the bag so they're not scratching each other, though these things are pretty tough. It'd be hard to mess them up. It's not like I'm throwing them around. I used to have an idea about organizing stuff on these shelves. Looks like we got DuPont connectors, here's a bunch of BNC to RCA adapter kit, sort of stuff like that, heat shrink tubing, random wires. Even further down, we have a bunch of Japanese Sega Saturns. To explain this, I first have to explain that I own like just as many of these Japanese Dreamcasts, and it looks like I bought them in 2021 based on my notes, or at least that's when I tested them, so I probably bought them in 21. This one is fully working, and it is eligible for a Noctua mod. So I went through each one. The idea was I was gonna bring them back into shape, and then I got into the retro computing stuff. Well, I mean, I always was, but I got less serious about video games, and here they sit. I got a pretty screaming deal on this stuff. First, I got the eBay lot for junk Dreamcasts shipped from Japan for like, I don't know, 10 bucks each or something like that, and it was effectively the same for the Saturn lot. You just had to buy a bunch of them, and some of them look really good. Like, that's a sharp looking Saturn. I mean, can't complain about that. The gray ones don't get too sun faded. I would say about half of them work, and half of that work somewhat okay. They're a little sketchy. But yeah, future projects, there's always projects. And then to round it off at the bottom, mostly IBM stuff. This is a bunch of IBM P5 hard drives. This is a bunch of IBM P-Series and RS6000 hard drive trays, I think is what's going on there. That's a P5 power supply and then a 7200 power supply, I think. Realizing I didn't really show you what's going on those Homelab servers, part of the point of this video. So this is TrueNAS. You saw this. TrueNAS is a network attached storage open source software. I really like it. You can accomplish the same thing on your own with, just running ZFS on a machine, but it uses ZFS behind the scenes. I set up a pool that I called Gemini 1 with at 4 terabytes of effective space, I think. Well, maybe it's more like 6. I can lose one of these disks. I've got 4 disks. They're all healthy. These are some of those old SAS drives I was showing you on that shelf. I threw these in many moons ago to set up my first pool to learn how to use TrueNAS, and here it is. I still use it. I didn't reconfigure it at all. Then I made another pool, Gemini 2. You saw that. She's degraded. She's in trouble. I think I can lose 2 total disks on this pool without losing any data. I actually care about the stuff. I think there's something like 8 disks in here or something. One is obviously having trouble, so I've got some work to do. And then I think I told you I'd show you some power consumption stuff. This is what's called the iDRAC for that Dell R720. The R510 has one as well, but it's way out of date and I have to use like a Windows XP VM to get into it. So here's the Dell R720 iDRAC. Stands for Integrated Dell Remote Access Controller. This is the remote management of those PowerEdge servers. And it's one of the reasons I became fascinated with enterprise hardware was the iDRAC. So let me show you. Get in here. This won't be a surprise to anyone that's dealt with enterprise equipment either professionally or casually like me, but the first time you see something like this is fascinating. This is remote access to that machine served over a special network interface it has. I can do things like look at the fans, look at the voltages, see what the power supply is. It's complaining about the power supplies because I only have one of the 2 plugged in. It has an event log, so this was us opening the chassis while the power is off, and then it knows that it got closed and everything is fine. That was me actually repairing it, and it's keeping track of all these things that are happening to the equipment. Over here, I won't get into it, but you can actually remote terminal into it and via the web browser control the machine, which is really nice, of course, for obvious reasons. Let's look at power thermal. So right now, I'm sad to say it's pulling 196 watts, which is too bad for my bill. The Dell R510, last time I checked, is pretty similar. The downside is they are not your quietest option, and they are not efficient, as you can see. They're not one of the efficient options you can pursue for a Homelab. I am willing to take the monetary hit because I like them so much. I want more of them. I can't justify it, but like if I could, I'd have 5 running in there. But hopefully this gives you an idea for how expensive it might be to run one of those, and I've got 2 of them running 24/7 all the time. Now, what do I actually run on that Dell R720? This is Proxmox. Yes, I know, I'm probably way out of date. One of the things I'm bad at and I don't enjoy about Homelabbing is upgrading things. I like to get it working and then leave it alone. But yeah, sometime this year I'll upgrade this. So if we take a look, I'll show you the summary of that machine. It's got 32 CPUs and something like 192 gigs of RAM. It's reporting 188 here. And they are old. They are Intel Xeon E5 2680s at 2.7 gigahertz. That's probably what's sucking down a lot of the power. But as you can see, I've got all sorts of VMs running on that machine, which is great. These worker nodes run containers in turn. Those are pretty important to the Homelab setup. I've covered it in the past. I'll link down below in the description, but that hasn't really changed since then, so I don't really have a reason to cover it again. And then you can see what I really use this for is Windows XP. When I need to do stuff in Windows XP, I can run a Windows XP VM and get in there and do whatever I need to do. I have 2 of them that I'm running at all times. Super useful for Homelabbing. This video is getting pretty long, so I think I'm going to call it. But as I've been showing you around, I'm realizing there's stuff I didn't even show you in the first place. Certainly stuff I didn't tell you about the things I have been showing you. But hopefully you enjoyed following along and taking a look at both the Homelab, the new Homelab, and all the stuff I've got going on down here. And hopefully it gets you a little excited about the retro rack. Got a lot of work to do before I can really start racking stuff up there. A lot of networking to think through and how I'm going to like architect the network, which is actually kind of exciting for me. I don't get to do that very often. And if you saw something in this video that you donated and I didn't happen to mention your name, don't worry, I have not forgotten. It just would have been a lot to bring up every time this came from so-and-so, this came from so-and-so. The truth is, a lot of this stuff has been donated or sent in for very, very fair prices. As I've progressed on this Netro YouTube channel journey, I'm not the authority here, but Netro being sort of like 80s to early 2000s networking technology and maybe mid 90s to early to mid 2000s enterprise servers. I just want to say I am just fascinated by the generosity and the camaraderie of the community. All the people that like really love looking at this old Sun stuff, even if you've never seen it before, or maybe you were in the trenches racking these up, running software, writing software for them. It's just amazing how many people reach out and comment and offer to give me things so that I can cover them on the channel, or maybe even more importantly, give me tons of advice. A lot of these videos wouldn't be possible without all of you helping me and getting me one step further towards the next one so that I can learn to do even cooler stuff with this gear. Thank you so much for following along. I hope it got you excited for the year. I'm getting excited looking at all this stuff. I've got more projects that I know what to do with. There will be more videos coming. So if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It really helps out the channel. And I am, of course, on Patreon. I post behind the scenes videos, little sneak peeks of what I'm working on, sometimes the occasional early video, and that sort of thing. Thanks once again, and I'll catch you in the next video.